evening and welcome to the news at 6 here on Rajya Sabha TV, where we get you the day's top developing stories from India and across the world. I'm Tracy Shilchi, and in the next 30 minutes I'll be getting you all of that. But first, the headlines. Amid a political row over controversial remarks, Home Minister Rajnath Singh tells cabinet colleagues to be restrained in their statements. Two policemen suspended after Dalit boy found dead under mysterious circumstances in Haryana's Gohana village. Post-mortem reports suggest he died due to hanging. The Sahitya Academy tries to cap the controversy, condemns killings of Kalburgi and Pansare, urges literateurs to take back their awards. And India welcomes the reference to terror groups Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Haqqani network in the US-Pakistan joint statement, hopes Pakistan will honor its commitments on its war against terror. Top story this evening, Union Minister General V.K. Singh's controversial remark over the Dalit killings in Haryana has now turned into a full-blown political war between the ruling BJP and the opposition. While the Congress, BSP and other parties have sought V.K. Singh's dismissal and blamed BJP for these incidents, the ruling party is busy with damage control measures. However, Home Minister Rajnath Singh did slam both cabinet colleagues V.K. Singh and also Kiran Rijiju for their controversial remarks recently.
कि किसी समुदाय विशेष की इज्जत के अंदर कमी आई है या उनको ठेस पहुंची है तो मैं उसके लिए माफी मांगता हूं.
This was General V.K. Singh's clarification on his controversial remarks on Dalit killings in Haryana in the past few days. But it may not be of much help to the beleaguered minister as opposition sought his dismissal after filing complaint against him.
इसकी हमारी पार्टी कड़े शब्दों में निंदा करने के साथ-साथ इस मामले में इस मंत्री को तुरंत ही अपनी सरकार से बर्खास्त करके इनको फौरन ही जेल के सलाखों के अंदर भिजवाना चाहिए.
दलितों का मसला है, उनकी भावनाएं आहत हुई इसका मसला है और कानून के मुताबिक हर आदमी बराबर है, चाहे वो हिंदुस्तान का नागरिक हो और चाहे वो देश का प्रधानमंत्री या देश के अंदर मंत्री हो.
Even V.K. Singh's own party does not seem to be satisfied with the clarification. Adding further to his woes, the NCSC has sought a report from the Ghaziabad SSP.
कोई भी स्टेटमेंट देते समय हम लोगों को ज्यादा सजग रहने की आवश्यकता है और साथ ही इस बात का भी ध्यान रखा जाना चाहिए कि उसका गलत इंटरप्रिटेशन, उसकी गलत व्याख्या करने की कोई गुंजाइश शेष न बचे.
जनरल वीके सिंह जी ने कल बयान दिया था और आज तक कोई कार्रवाई नहीं हुई है, इसीलिए आयोग ने हस्तक्षेप किया है, आयोग ने संज्ञान लिया है, नोटिस जारी किया है, उनसे जवाब मांगा है.
Meanwhile, after one more incident of violence against Dalit community in the state, Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar has said these incidents should not be viewed as caste conflicts. Congress, however, has held the ruling party responsible for these incidents.
वो स्वयं गए हैं थाने में, शिकायत लेकर के एक परिवार गया है. शिकायत जब गया है तो उस समय दूसरे को बुला करके उनका फैसला हो गया है और फैसला होने के बाद फिर वो वापस घर चले गए हैं. रात्रि को सुसाइड होता है. सुसाइड का पोस्टमार्टम रिपोर्ट अभी अनऑफिशियली तो जानकारी मिली, लेकिन ऑफिशियली उसकी रिपोर्ट आएगी. सुसाइड क्यों हुआ, किस कारण से हुआ,
उन्होंने क्या एक्शन लिया अपने मंत्रियों के खिलाफ या दूसरे लोग हैं, इनकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं जो आरक्षण के ही खिलाफ हैं, बाद में लीपापोती करने को कुछ भी करें.
The incidents of violence against members of Dalit community followed by controversial remarks from the leader of ruling BJP have given enough ammunition to the opposition, which now says it will make this a national issue. Vishal Dahiya's report for Rajya Sabha Television.
And just 2 days after two Dalit children were burnt alive in a middle of the night attack on their family in Haryana's Faridabad district, another incident sparked angry protests in the state. The death of a 15-year-old boy, allegedly in police custody, forced his family to protest on the streets. The two policemen accused of the act have now been suspended.
The two policemen accused of being involved in the death of a 15-year-old boy in Gohana in Haryana have been booked and suspended pending investigation. The boy's family has accused the two assistant sub-inspectors of killing him.
पिजन चोरी का मामला था, लड़के के ऊपर टॉर्चर हुआ था या नहीं तो
गिरफ्तारी किस मामले पर?
नहीं, कोई गिरफ्तारी नहीं हुई थी, ना कोई टॉर्चर का मामला था। ये खुद ही आए थे यहाँ थाने में और अपने आप आपस में बातचीत करके चले गए थे। हाँ, सुबह इसकी डेड बॉडी मिली थी घर में इनके।
मामला किसके खिलाफ है, उसके क्या?
मामला इन 2 पुलिस वालों के अगेंस्ट स्टेटमेंट दिया है, उनके अगेंस्ट।
The death of the 15-year-old Dalit boy sparked protests in the area on Thursday. The boy's body was found in a vacant house a day after he was detained by police on charges of stealing pigeons. His family blames the cops for his death.
थाने में गई तेन बोले साढ़े कोने पानी पीने का बहाना बाज गया तो बाज जाओ
तो आप बताए थे पुलिस
तड़के मैंने क्वाड खोलने तो आग लगा खाली था हमारा इसमें पड़ा पाया मैंने
थाने में छोड़ गया इस बच्चे ने, वाड़ गया इसके छोड़ने के मांगे उन्हें 2,500 रुपये। फिर इन्हें कुकरे भी सामान समून बेच का अपना कुछ भी बेचा हो 20-2,500 रुपये करे इकट्ठे इसने, फिर भी नहीं छोड़ा बालक। बोले 5,000 रुपये लागेंगे इसके। पुलिस ने मारा इसको, वो तो उनने फिर आए कुकर मारा है, सैमी करे नहीं मारा यो। और फिर शाम लगा इसकी माँ बचा दी, बोला वो तो पानी का नाम लेकर भाज गया। थाने में तो बालक भाज गया, थाने में तो कौन भाज गया, औलाद में तो कोई भाज गया।
The post-mortem report says the boy died due to hanging and that there was no injury mark on the body. With inputs from Ravindra Sharan, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the recent spurt on incidents on Dalits, is this a caste bias or is poverty, of course, one of the reasons? For more on this, to understand this story further, we're joined by Professor Surinder Singh Jodhka, who's at the Center of the Study for Social Systems, which is the School of Social Sciences as well at JNU, joining us this evening on the news at 6. Professor, thank you so much for being here with us. Like we were pointing out, and a story also suggesting that the BJP, in fact, saying that the Congress and the other opposition leaders are trying to paint this as a caste issue. But isn't this a caste issue?
Well, it obviously is a caste issue. I mean, caste is the central question here, and that's how it has been presented, and that's how, even if it is conflict between two families, it tends to happen because they belong to different caste groups, and that's how issue then takes a particular form. If it was a conflict within the same community or within upper caste or within Dalits, the whole social context would have been very different and it would have had a very different kind of life. So I think caste remains very central, and that's why politically it becomes a very different kind of issue.
Absolutely. And, you know, trying to understand really where the Dalits have progressed so far, where the issue of caste has progressed so far. Do you see any improvement as we're seeing in these past few decades? Or is the situation still the same as far as local politics is concerned, as far as, caste superstitions are concerned? The treatment of Dalits, has there been any difference, any improvement at all?
Yeah, I mean, this is a kind of a consequence of a kind of structural transformation that has taken place. It's not only improvement, it's a kind of a radical change which has happened in the rural landscapes of northwest India and in many other parts of India. The kind of dependencies that Dalits had over the upper castes or the land-owning dominant communities does not exist any longer. Dalits have their own jobs, their own kind of sources of income. Some of them have also experienced some kind of upward mobility. For example, this family, it does have a kind of reasonably good house, and families have their own aspirations and they have their own sense of dignity. So the kind of violence that used to go on earlier, people could take it lying down, no longer possible. So the communities also resist, and it is because of this resistance that you have some kind of conflict, and these conflicts take sometimes very, very ugly form. And the larger political system also promises this mobility to the Dalits. Our political system is now a democratic system. That's why this has become such a big issue. So you can't just pass a kind of casual remark over something like this, like General did yesterday, just by saying any word is not something that is acceptable. So you have to be very, very careful and very sensitive to the larger context in which the discussion is taking place, in which
interesting that you're bringing that up, Professor, because that's in fact one of the things which a lot of people have, of course, observed. it's bad enough that as a society, we have these caste divisions, and it has been going on, and the Dalits, of course, being treated badly because of this caste division. But apart from that, you also have leaders, and you also have somebody who has been an army chief earlier, making statements like this, equating it to just throwing stones at a dog. These kind of insensitive statements also making it, the situation worse than what it already is for, people belonging to such, caste groups.
Yeah, this opens up many other questions. Even though we in urban areas think that we are free of caste prejudice, we don't really think about those realities, because in everyday life we don't really deal with caste. We are secularly employed, our values are secular, but within that there are deeply held prejudices, and these prejudices somehow shape our attitude towards specific kinds of people who are not kind of part of our social kind of setup. Within our own social setup also, the moment you talk to middle class people about reservation, the kind of reactions they have are very strange. So I think these are things that need to be talked about. They should not be kind of brushed aside under the table that no, we will not talk about caste. We have to talk about caste and how it in a sense continues to shape our mindsets, shape our prejudices, shape our values at some level. And that's why, he doesn't think that there is anything wrong in what he said.
Yes.
But there are so many people who find it extremely, in a sense, problematic, the manner in which it's spoken. So
Yes.
I think this is a lack of communication, and this is kind of lack of understanding of
That's
the larger
perhaps more worrying, that you
process
make
of
an
change.
insensitive
You still think
statement
that,
and you yourself
so
don't even
artificial.
regret it. You don't even see what's wrong with that. That's even a bigger worry for perhaps a lot of us here that we have to be
Recognize
pondering
that you have
upon.
said anything wrong because
Yes.
you're politically not sensitive. Yeah.
Absolutely. Professor Jyotka, thanks so much for joining us on this story. We're, of course, not seeing the end of it. More, incidents, of course, getting reported day by day, and especially these two cases, of course, the probe is on. Meanwhile, facing unrelenting protests by writers, the Sahitya Academy has finally broken its silence today. The literary body has passed a resolution condemning the murder of Kannada writer M.M. Kalburgi. It has also expressed solidarity with the writers, urging them to take back the awards that they returned.
Writers from across the country held a silent march in the national capital on Friday against rising intolerance in the backdrop of Kannada writer M.M. Kalburgi's killing. Dressed in black gags and armbands, writers and their supporters held a solidarity march to the Sahitya Academy building. They also submitted a memorandum to the Sahitya Academy demanding that it pass a resolution pledging to take stern steps to safeguard freedom of speech and right to dissent of the writers. Over the past few weeks, over 40 writers returned their Sahitya Academy awards and stepped down from official academy positions to lodge protests.
साहित्यकारों ने मांग की कि कालबुर्गी के हत्या के खिलाफ एक शोक सभा करे साहित्य अकादमी। वह अभी तक साहित्य अकादमी ने नहीं किया है और साहित्य अकादमी की आज एक आपात बैठक होने जा रही है। तो यही साहित्य अकादमी से मांग करने ये लेखक जा रहे हैं कि वह इस हत्या, साहित्यकारों के प्रति असहिष्णुता इत्यादि के खिलाफ एक शोक प्रस्ताव पारित करे और इसके खिलाफ स्टैंड ले।
The Sahitya Academy held an emergency meeting on Friday where the literary body unanimously passed a resolution appealing to state governments and the centre to take steps to prevent such incidents. It has also requested the writers to take back their awards.
समाज के विभिन्न समुदायों से भी विनम्र अनुरोध करती है कि जाति, धर्म, क्षेत्र और विचारधाराओं के आधार पर मतभेदों को अलग रखकर एकता और समरसता को बनाए रखें।
It appealed to the writers to take back the awards, those who were returned, and also the members who were resigned to take back their resignation.
The Academy's board meeting will be held in December, where it will discuss the situation arising out of writers returning their awards. The literary body also said that it has addressed writers' demand to condemn recent incidents of intolerance, including Dadri lynching. The government had earlier dismissed the literary protest, with Finance Minister Arun Jaitley terming them as manufactured paper rebellion. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In other news, a complete shutdown has made Kashmir Valley stand still once again within days of the last curfew. The protest has been called by head of the All Parties Hurriyat Conference, Syed Ali Shah Gilani, against the death of a truck driver who succumbed to injuries in a petrol bomb attack earlier this month. Police has put all separatist leaders, including Gilani and Mirwais, under house arrest. Police and CRPF forces have been deployed in strength in sensitive areas to maintain law and order. Protests have erupted in Anantnag district and some other places after the trucker was attacked amid rumors that he was involved in transporting cows. In other news, US President Barack Obama hosted Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif at the White House, and Pakistan assured that it will fulfill its commitment in its fight against terror. But the US has refused to get drawn into its demand for a third role party in the India-Pakistan talks on Kashmir.
Obviously, the United States and Pakistan have a long-standing relationship, work and cooperate on a whole host of issues.
Beyond this reaffirmation of a long-standing relationship, Nawaz Sharif got no assistance from Obama on Pakistan's stand on the Kashmir issue. At their meeting at the White House, President Obama remained firmly focused on Afghanistan and countering terror.
Pakistan-America relations span over 70 years, and it is my endeavor to further strengthen and solidify this relationship. And I look forward to a very constructive engagement with you today to add greater substance and depth to our relationship.
The US made it clear to Pakistan that it must act against all terror groups without discrimination, be it LET or its affiliates. But Pakistan ruled out a ban on the JUD that India has been pressing for its role on Mumbai attacks and mastermind Hafiz Saeed.
I am given to understand that this is the first time that Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Haqqani network have been specifically mentioned in a US-Pakistan joint statement. You have also read the assurances about these two organizations specifically and terrorism generally offered by Pakistan. We would naturally hope that they deliver on these commitments.
The US also stressed the need to normalize relations between the two neighbors, even as it ruled out any role in the Indo-Pak peace process unless both nations jointly asked for it.
Let me make it clear that India has always desired resolution of all issues with Pakistan bilaterally through dialogue and peaceful means. It is Pakistan which has chosen to use terrorism as an instrument of state policy.
Despite Washington's concerns about Pakistan's growing nuclear arsenal, the Obama administration said it could sell 8 F-16 fighter jets to bolster the two countries' relationship. Islamabad refused to accept limits on its use of nuclear weapons. Washington categorically ruled out any negotiations on any India-type civil nuclear deal. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With a quick break here, but still ahead, political parties resume campaigning for the third phase of polling in Bihar after the festival break. BJP Chief Amit Shah and Chief Minister Nitish Kumar address high-voltage rallies.
The poll juggernaut rolls out in Bihar. Modi's NDA takes on Nitish's Grand Alliance. Who will win this most important election battle since 2014? Watch Verdict 2015, Monday through Saturday on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Now, after a festive break, campaigning resumed in Bihar today. Political leaders returned to the dais to garner support while intensifying attack on their rivals. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and BJP Chief Amit Shah were among the heavyweights on the campaign trail today.
The high-voltage campaign resumed in Polban, Bihar on Friday, post the Durga Puja and Dashehra break. Star campaigners were back in action, addressing rallies and public meetings. Canvassing for his party candidates, BJP President Amit Shah addressed a rally in Muzaffarpur, which goes to polls in the fourth phase on the 1st of November. Nitish Kumar, the chief ministerial candidate of the Grand Alliance, was also in Muzaffarpur. Continuing with the rhetoric, Nitish Kumar attacked Prime Minister Modi for his unfulfilled promises.
प्रधानमंत्री जी को 14 महीना तक बिहार की याद नहीं आई। जब बिहार का चुनाव नजदीक आ गया तो उनको बिहार की याद आने लगी और अब इतनी याद आने लगी कि आजकल रोज बिहार आ रहा है। बिहार के बारे में कहा विशेष राज्य का दर्जा देंगे, भूल गए। विशेष सहायता के नाम पर पैकेज का ऐलान किया, 1,25,00,000 का पैकेज। हमने अगले दिन उसी दिन एक बात प्रमाण के साथ बता दी कि 1,25,000 करोड़ में से 1,08,000 करोड़ की योजना पुरानी है।
State BJP leader Sushil Modi also held a road show in Buxar. Buxar goes to polls in the third phase on 28th of October. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, let's take you through some more updates from across the country in Nationwide. Punjab was peaceful today after over a week of protests following the sacrilege incidents and killing of 2 youths in police firing. However, police and central paramilitary forces are on high alert and are keeping a close vigil on the situation. Representatives of Pulse and Grain Importers Associations met Union Finance Minister Arun Jaitley today. They discussed the prices of pulses, which are expected to go down after Diwali next month. Prices of pulses have been rising dramatically over the past few weeks, with arhar dal being sold at 200 rupees per kilo in the retail market. The protest against UGC's decision to stop scholarships for the non-NET students entered its 4th day today. Around 50 protesters were detained from inside the UGC premises. The students said that they will not leave the commission office until the decision was revoked. A court in Delhi today fixed November 3rd for hearing arguments on the sentencing of Uber cab driver Shiv Kumar Yadav. He was convicted on Tuesday for raping a 25-year-old woman in his taxi in December last year. International news now, and at least 24 people were killed today in a bus crash in southwestern France. The incident took place in the Gironde wine region east of Bordeaux. The bus, in which about 50 people were traveling, collided with a truck and burst into flames within seconds. 9 others are injured, 4 of them seriously. French Prime Minister Manuel Valls inspected the spot soon after the tragedy and said that the incident has plunged his country into mourning.
Je veux exprimer l'émotion de la nation face à cette catastrophe routière qui s'est produite tôt ce matin à Puisseguin, à quelques kilomètres d'ici. 42 personnes ont péri dans d'atroces conditions dans ce bus en flammes après une collision.
With that, let's take you through some more international news in Global Buzz. In Pakistan, retired Lieutenant General Nazir Khan Janjua has been appointed as the new National Security Advisor, signaling the powerful army's increasing grip on security affairs of the country and its dealings with India. The outgoing NSA, Sartaj Aziz, will now concentrate on foreign affairs. US presidential candidate Hillary Clinton has endured an 11-hour hearing before a Congress committee over the deadly attack on the US consulate in Benghazi, Libya in 2012. The former Secretary of State said that she took responsibility and introduced reforms after the attack that killed 4 Americans, including the US envoy. She deflected criticism, though, saying that she did not do enough to protect the mission. A masked man who killed a teaching assistant and a boy with immigrant backgrounds was driven by racist motives, say Swedish police. This has fueled concerns that the record number of refugees were polarizing the country. Police shot the suspect, a local man in his early 20s, who later died of his injuries in hospital. He had no criminal record. Meanwhile, about 1,500 migrants broke out of a camp on the Slovenian-Austrian border and proceeded to resume their journey into Austria. The migrants were held at a camp where they were brought to wait for buses which were to take them into Austria. But as word spread that the next bus convoy would take at least 12 hours to arrive, many lost their patience, tore down parts of the fence and stormed out of the camp. That's all we have for you on the news at 6. Thanks so much for joining us.